I'm going to quickly run through how to get your DOT and MC authority, the government forms to fill out, the websites to go to, and everything like that. So if you want to become a motor carrier, these are the steps that you take to get a DOT and MC authority. I'm on the FMCSA's main website, fmcsa.dot.gov, and I'm assuming you've already got your EIN, you've got an LLC, and you've got a bank account for that LLC. So on their website, you're going to go to registration up here, apply for a new US DOT number and or authority, go through the login process. Okay, so after you get logged in, are you a third party? They're just going to walk you through a bunch of questions, just answer them honestly. I'm going to run through real quick, and there was just one section where I kind of screwed up whenever I applied. I'll go through that. New applicant, and click next. Okay, so I'm skipping through the personal information, and your business information is on the previous pages. I'm just going to skip all that. I think everybody can figure that out. Right here, intermodal equipment provider, no. You want to check, unless that's what you are. Will you transport property? Yes. Will the applicant receive compensation for the business of transporting the property? Yes. So here you got 4 options. What type of property? Hazmat, household goods, exempt commodities, or other non-hazardous freight. I only checked off other non-hazardous freight, and that's what most people will check off. And then they're just going to ask you directly again on these: non-hazardous freight across interstate line or across state lines, interstate commerce. Yes. Transport their own property. No. This is not talking about if you use your trailer to move to a new house or something. That's not what this is talking about. This is like if you're a shipper and you own your own trucks. Will you transport passengers? No. Household good mover? No. Freight forwarder? No. And you'll have to check these off. I've already went through this, and this is just a saved application. So mine's already in here because I didn't want to show all the personal stuff, so I came back and I'm doing it again. Cargo tank facility? No, for most people. Anything I'm saying no or yes on, obviously, if it's true for you, then just do whatever is appropriate for yourself. Tow away? No. Okay, this is one of them where you want to choose everything that's appropriate except, so what I've got is general freight, household goods I did not choose, metal sheets, coils I did choose, motor vehicles I will choose that because that could be true. Logs, poles, beams, lumber, tow away, no. Building materials, yes. Mobile homes, probably not going to check that off. Machinery, large objects, yes. Fresh produce, I'm not going to check, but if you're a reefer or a dry van, I used to haul pumpkins. I think that would be considered produce in a dry van. Liquids and gases, I'm going to check yes. Intermodal. So where I chose no on the previous intermodal option at the beginning, I'm gonna check off intermodal containers because I do haul containers. Passengers, no. Oil field equipment, yes. Livestock, I'm gonna check no. Grain, hay, and feed, don't check that off unless you actually do that. And there's another one on here. So meat, coal, coke, chemicals, I'm gonna check chemicals off because I could haul non-hazardous chemicals. Commodities, dry, bulk, I'm just going to leave it no. This one at the top, this general freight, that captures most everything, honestly. Beverages, refrigerated food, paper products, utilities, farm supplies. This is the one, this one and the grain, hay, and feed, I think that might trigger it too. But I had farm supplies checked off, and I had to go back for the state of Florida. If you don't have farm supplies or any agriculture related stuff on here checked, you can get an exemption to where you don't have to, you'll just get the bypass. You register for it through your pre-pass. You can just skip all those ag sites. If you have farm supplies checked, they're going to reject it though. Construction, I would say yes. Utility, you would say yes. Other, that should be pretty accurate. Okay, next. Towaway, we'll be transporting these, no. There's your summary. Read through all that, make sure it's accurate. Number of non-commercial motor vehicles, make sure this is 0 unless you have like a work truck. like specifically that's owned by your business, that's owned by the carrier, I put 0 here. And owned trucks and trailers, I've got 1 checked off here under the owned trucks and 1 checked off under owned trailers. If you're leasing a trailer, you would check 1 here. Trip lease, tow away, anything that's appropriate for you, make sure the numbers are accurate. Commercial motor vehicles in Canada or Mexico, I've got 0 on both. Interstate with an E, I've got 1. Intrastate, I'm going to put 0. I'll apply for intrastate through the state of Texas, but I'm not going to operate solely in intrastate commerce. None of my vehicles will be for that purpose. Okay, they'll give you a summary here again. Make sure all that's accurate, and we'll go on to the driver information. This is where I screwed up also whenever I was applying. They'll ask you for 2 conditions for interstate and 2 conditions for intrastate. All 4 of them can be true. I live right next to the Louisiana border, and it doesn't really matter where you live because you could haul, you can go pick up wherever. But you could do a less than 100 mile trip from where I live over into Louisiana. That would be within a 100 air mile radius. So that would be true. However, I'm going to choose 0 because it's going to show up in their system as an additional driver. So this is counting drivers. So what you want is 1 driver in the beyond 100 air mile radius for interstate. And then it's going to ask you for intrastate. I had 1 checked in all of these boxes because all of them could be true for me. And I had to go back and change it to 0s on both of the intrastates and then just 1 on the beyond 100 air miles for interstate. Number of drivers with a CDL, 1. Canada, Mexico drivers, 0, 0. There's your summary again. Yes, a vehicle greater than 10,000 pounds. This is telling you about your minimum insurance requirement, $750,000. I would suggest getting $1 million because you don't want to have $750,000 and then call about a load and they say, we require $1 million. You don't have enough insurance, so just get $1 million. I would say no, unless you should check yes here for an affiliation with another applicant for registration, but I'd say most people are going to check no. Certification statement, this is what I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to sign off on a fake form. So after you finish registering for the DOT number, I'm not going to click through, so I don't think I can access this, but this is just a PDF version of the MC Authority registration. It's called the OP1 form. So I'm just going to run through this. It won't take long at all. It costs $300 to do this, and I don't think that's refundable if you don't activate it. You could do a dual be a brokerage and a motor carrier at the same time. That could cost you some loads though. I don't know that unless you really need it, I probably wouldn't start out with that because some brokers see that as a risk of you double brokering their freight. The steps, fill out this form, which yours would be, I'm just using this PDF as an example. You would be able to go through that last step that I didn't go through. So step 1, you do the application. Step 2, receive the MC number. Step 3, 10-day protest period. Maybe they changed it. I thought it was 21 days. It was 21 days when I did it. Maybe it's 10 now. You'll have to get the insurance company to file a form for you. They'll have to put your insurance on file with FMCSA. You have to get your BOC3 processing agent, and then you're operating. So after you apply, you'll get put into a register so you can go licensing and insurance. You can go here and check and just see if you're in the system. Okay, so these are the forms that insurance is going to file for you for proof of your liability and property damage and proof of cargo liability insurance. These bottom 2 are for brokers. That's just talking about the process agents. Okay, so this section here, the type of operating authority, you want to choose, unless you know otherwise, most people are going to choose this motor common carrier of property except household goods. The other options are motor contract carrier of property except household goods and motor common carrier of household goods. So you want to choose the common carrier except household goods unless you know otherwise. So there's your minimum insurance. Hazardous materials, 5 million. Okay, so here's the actual form. You leave this, you're not going to be doing it here, but you'll be on the website form. You'll put all your information in, type of business, you'll check motor common carrier. If you're doing hazmat, you need to mess with that section there. Okay, so this is not optional. You got to check that you're operating a vehicle more than 10,000 pounds. If you will operate only under 10,000 pounds, I would say do not check that. You've got to disclose relationships or affiliations there. Household goods, no. Applicant's oath. Payment instructions, give them some money. Mailing instructions, hopefully you're not doing this by mail. You'll submit the form and you're on to the next step. So after you do this, you need to get a PIN number before you can access your portal. PIN FMCSA. So you'll come here, immediate delivery, request current USDOT number, PIN. So where that's at is the safer.fmcsa.dot.gov auto PIN index. You can just get there with a quick Google search. And let me go back and show you. So this is the page how I got there. fmcsa.dot.gov/registration/request PIN number. Immediately delivered. That's the option I chose. Which took me to this page. I'm not going to click that because I think it's just going to auto-generate a PIN right there. So once you do that, you'll be able to get into your FMCSA portal right here. So once you log into the portal, this is what you'll see. Should have all your information. If I remember, I won't be able to demonstrate this, but I think you have to give your user access. Make sure you do have the administrative account to where you can access everything and give yourself permissions. So if you were a company with multiple people, you could give different people different permissions and authorities to come in here and view and modify things. If you need to make changes, this is where you get to your MCS-150. Every 2 years, you'll have to update this, or anytime there's a change, you update that, that's basically what you just went through as the MCS-150. There's also, if you want to do an address change, you can do that here. Phone number change, stuff like that. So I'm not going to go through and show you all this stuff. Honestly, I have rarely used it. I had to make a couple changes, and I did that MCS-150 update when I needed to take myself as a driver off of those 3 places where I accidentally put, it looked like I had 4 drivers in the system. But that's your portal, and there are links. So this is one of the things you'll do. Let's go there. So the licensing and insurance page, you search for yourself as a carrier. I don't even think you have to put the state. Let's try it without the state. Yeah, so this is the page you'll come to see if your authority is active. So during your 21-day protest period, you come to this page for your own, with your own DOT or MC number, and authority status right here, active, insurance on file. So you'll be checking this page frequently. It shows your BOC3, active and pending insurance. It shows the insurance company that you use, carrier details, that's the main page. Rejected insurance, no. Insurance history, I've only had the one policy. Authority history, shows my authority was active on August 1st of 2025. Pending application, if your authority is not active yet, it'll probably, I think this is where it shows under pending application. Revocation, no revocations. One other thing, if you haven't already done so, make sure you've filed your Schedule 1 for your 2290. I use Express Truck Tax. It's like, I think they charge $10. It's quick, but you can do it yourself. You can file it directly. You will need that 2290 to go further with your IRP and stuff like that. I don't think you need the 2290 to do any of this stuff we've done so far. And most of the time, I think if you're leased on somewhere, you should be used to doing the 2290s already. You need a BOC3 processing agent. If you come here, fmcsa.dot.gov, registration, process agents, there's a list. You can just Google search it. Here's a list of lots of them, but you shouldn't pay any more than $50, I'd say. I think I got it for $20 or $40. So the name of mine is $20 BOC3 filing. That's the name of the processing agent. You need to take care of that. It's quick. So you need to sign up for a drug testing consortium. I used GoMD Now. They just run random drug testing for you. They can also get you set up. I'm not suggesting you should use GoMD Now. I don't know if they're good or bad. They're pretty cheap. I think I'm paying less than $50 for them, but there's lots of them out there. Just do a Google search. But you need to run a pre-employment drug screen on yourself. You'll need to do a query. Whoever you use, you should have the ability to do an MIS report, an annual MIS report. I don't think you actually have to submit these. I think you just have to have it available if they need it. So just pull one of these annually from your consortium. And when you'll also need to run a query on yourself through the Clearinghouse, the Drug and Alcohol Clearinghouse. So whenever you log in to the Clearinghouse, whenever I scroll down, I can see if I change this to view the last year, I can see that I did a pre-employment query. You have to pay for these. I think it's like $1, maybe $2. But up at the top of the website, you go to Dashboard, Queries. You can look at your query history, conduct a query. So that's what you'd be doing. It's probably, so it's going to ask me to pay. So you pay $1.25 and you run a drug and alcohol query on yourself. Save the results. I'll show you real quick. This is how I have my authority. I've just got an authority folder. Brokers, carrier packets are up at the top. Accident records, BOLs, DOT, MC, which has got that's got the main stuff in it. Once you get set up with your BOC3 company, you should get something that looks like this. Once your authority is active, you'll get this from the FMCSA. That's your actual motor carrier certificate. After you pass your safety audit, you should get something like that. I think these are all downloaded from the FMCSA website. Yeah, so they've got tons of documentation if you need to figure out how to do something in there, or you can just call them. Okay, so IRP, UCR. Your UCR is extremely simple. You pay per the number of trucks. The UCR website, I'll show you how to do that real quick. It's ucr.gov. It'll take you less than 5 minutes. You fill out the information. You have to wait. You have to have your DOT before you do it. But fill out the information and you get a UCR. They're just ringing the register on you again. I don't even know why we need a UCR, honestly. Let's look at a DQ file. I got a master template here that's got everything. Your CDLs, that's empty. If I look at mine, it's actually got all this stuff in it. Copies of driver's license, passport, TWIC cards, all that type of stuff. Certification of violations. This is something you have to fill out annually. So I recently I had an out of service for a flat tire in Arkansas. So I marked this off, and then at the end of the year, or I do mine in August, I'll just sign it and save that document. It's probably a good idea to keep a master copy if you were going to add drivers, and then have one for yourself. That's kind of how I have it set up. You need to keep a copy of your DOT physical, long form and short form, all the drug and alcohol queries that you've done for yourself, and the testing. So you need to keep copies of the tests that show what the results were. Education, defensive. I don't do any education, but I did have a defensive driving certificate from a while back, so I saved that. Employment application, I think I'll have to blur out so much stuff. Let me see if I got a blank one of those. I just grabbed this off the internet. So you need to fill out an application for yourself and hire yourself. Investigation history file, that's blank there, and it's blank here, but that's something they wanted to see. They listed it on the safety audit instructions. MVR, you can pull your own MVR from your state. I think I got to do it for free, because if you're doing it on yourself, I believe it's free, but if you're doing it on someone else, you'd have to pay for it. And I think you'd have to go to their state, whichever state their CDL's from, to pull their driving history. And this is just for whenever you first start, or whenever a new driver, if you're hiring a new driver as prior on-duty hours, you need to know what they did the prior, I think it's 7 or 8 days. Just have them fill out their on-duty hours on a form, sign off on it. So that's a DQ file. ELD, that's more the administrative stuff on my ELD. I've got IFTA, so I save quarterly mileage reports by jurisdiction and fuel reports by jurisdiction. So I keep all that in an IFTA thing, and I get that from the ELD admin portal. You'll need an MCS-150 from your insurance provider. Make sure they put 1 million. If you have a $1 million policy, a lot of them will default this to $750,000. At Progressive, I had to request for them to place $1 million here on the MCS-150. If they don't put $1 million on there, this insurance on file is going to show up as $750,000. So I would request that. And I forgot to mention earlier when I was talking about the IFTA, the fuel, and mileage and everything, but you need to save your hours of service, your ELD logs for yourself as a driver, if you're not already used to doing that. But as a carrier, you're required to keep hours of service logs. And you need some kind of folder for roadside inspections, clean inspections, failed inspections. I just recently failed that inspection that I mentioned for the tire. Keep a copy. Should have a signature showing that the repair was done. Make sure you keep an invoice or a receipt showing that a repair was done. I looked, and I don't think there's anywhere to submit this to the FMCSA. I'm pretty sure the state of Arkansas is supposed to submit that, or whichever state, wherever you get a violation, they should submit it. So the last folder here, state permits. This is where I keep Kentucky, all the filings that I do with them. I was keeping my Florida bill of ladings, but whenever my exemption with Florida went active, I talked to the officer or the agriculture official, and he did an interview with me through email, and he determined that I don't even need to keep my bill of ladings. He said if you're hauling agriculture or anything that you think could potentially be agriculture into the state of Florida, then just contact him. So Florida, I've also got over-length permits here. Kansas, blanket overweight and oversized permits. Kentucky, that's the KYU filings. New Mexico, weight distance tax filings. New York HUT filings. Oregon, that's just my initial registration. That's pretty much it. That's something for Oklahoma. So anything that's specific for a state, I keep in one folder. And then the main stuff, IRP related information, I can't really go through IRP because that's all going to be different depending on the state. I can show you the state of Texas. So the state of Texas, they use something called the TxFleet, and that's just your dashboard. So whenever I needed to get the overweight blanket permit for Kansas, I had to make a modification to this, and so you can come in here and you can modify your cab card. So I created a new weight classification in here, and it still shows it's still an 80,000 pound classification, but I changed Kansas specifically. Let's see if we go in here, will it let us? Yeah, so you can manually just come in here and you can edit your weights for each state. So you can see everything is 80,000 except for Kansas. I've got registered at 85,500, and that allows you to get a blanket Kansas permit that covers you up to 120,000. So this is what the blanket Kansas covers: 126 long, 16.6 wide, 15 tall, 120 on your weight, legal overhang on the rear, and it's only $200 for the year. If you know other states that have cheap blankets, drop it in the comments, because those blankets really save you quite a bit of money. So anyways, you'll come into the TxFleet if you're in Texas or your other state. You'll just go to their IRP, website, whatever it is, and you'll have to do your registration through them. And then after you do that, you can do IFTA. IFTA is also state specific. The Texas IFTA is through the Comptroller's website. So you go to the Comptroller's website and you'll register for IFTA, and it could be different in your state, but just do a Google search and find out how to do the IFTA registration. And I forgot to mention, and I forgot to do this for the safety audit. He didn't fail me for it, but one thing you're supposed to do is you're supposed to contact prior employers. So I would add another folder to the DQ file just called employment history. So you just need to contact whoever you're currently driving for and ask them if there was any problems, or I think legally all you can ask them is, would you rehire? And I think legally they can just tell you yes or no. I don't know. There's privacy issues. I'm not sure that they can get any more detailed than that. Well, that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, drop it in the comments. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I'm going to do a separate video that covers the carrier packets and invoicing, fuel cards, RMIS, my carrier packet, highway. So I'll do a separate video. If you have specific questions, drop it in the comments. But y'all take care. Stay safe out there. I'll see you next time.